That's right, you truly don't love somebody until you make the sacrifice of giving them your built-out lowrider ST so that they don't have to ride a Sportster. What's going on YouTube? FXDLS Brooklyn is back in the building, coming at you live from the middle of nowhere. And why do people hate on Sportsters so much? Let's talk about it. Today's a day, you know, this is a bike that's been in my family for a long time. This is a 1988 Sportster 883. This bike lives up here where we camp up in the mountains. And, you know, I just fired this thing up this morning. You know, it literally has not been started in a year. Thing has just been sitting in a shed all winter, and the thing just fired right up, and I couldn't believe it. From somebody who's coming from the Dyna FXR world, you know, Sportsters are often the butt of a lot of jokes amongst the Dyna FXR crowd. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't make some of those jokes sometimes, you know. But also, I was just ripping on this Sportster today, and I was like, you know, you gotta say, man, for the right riding conditions, this could be a very capable and fun bike. So yeah, this was the first Harley Davidson that I rode. You know, like most of you, I did start in terms of my Harley Davidson riding career on a Sportster. And if it's gonna be a Sportster, let it not be one of those new iron 883s, those modern 883s. Let it be a Sportster screaming and leaking from the 80s. I shouldn't say leaking. This bike actually has been super reliable. Alright, so here we are, somewhere in America. We got the old Sportster chugging along. And we have the road captain on the new lowrider ST, rocking his Simpson, because, you know, if you are the good son that you say you are, then you turn over your bike so your old man doesn't have to ride a Sportster. That's right, you truly don't love somebody until you make the sacrifice of giving them your built-out lowrider ST so that they don't have to ride a Sportster. Look, I can't help myself. I'm making a video about why people hate on these bikes so much, and I can't help myself from cracking jokes on this bike. Oh my god, 4 gears. This thing is definitely not keeping up with that 117 up there. That's for damn sure. Man, I cannot keep up with this guy on my 117 lowrider ST up there. He is not pulling any punches, man. I got this thing wide open, man. Woo! So yeah, you know, this particular bike that you're seeing, this is a family heirloom, which you would call a heirloom Harley Davidson. This bike has been in my family since, well, hell, before I could even walk and talk, this bike was in my family. So I got memories of my old man ripping around on this bike as I was growing up. You know, as a kid, my dad would put me on the back of this bike growing up and take me to the car shows and bike shows. So this bike is very much a part of my family, hence why we still keep it, and we keep it maintained, and we've never let this bike go. You know, like I said, this was when I started getting serious about riding cruisers, you know, this was my first Harley Davidson. And, you know, as a motovlogger, you know, I've never really done any Sportster content because by the time I started doing scene, obviously my Sportster days were long behind me. You know, I was full on ripping dynas at that point. But even back then, I still actually kept this Sportster as a commuter. I used this bike to get to and from work within New York City, and it very much did well for that purpose. And now, this bike just lives up here in the mountains and is sometimes used for what you're seeing right now, which is if the road captain drives up here, you know, he had to pull a trailer, he had to pull an ATV up here, so he didn't bring his bike. We always have a reliable bike up here. And that's this bike. Like I said, literally has been sitting for a year through a New York winter and literally just turned right over with no problem. All I had to do was put maybe, check the oil, oil's fine. Had to put maybe 12 pounds of air pressure in the tires, and that was it. She was ready to rip. And you know, it was fun, man. I was actually just ripping this bike around some of the, doing some off-roading with this bike and some of the dirt and gravel roads up in the mountains, which I do on my Dynas, my FXR, and my ST up there, which, you know, if you see any chips on my main bikes, that's why. It's from Brooklyn miles, and it's from putting them in situations that they were not designed to be in. But I took this thing on a dirt trail today, and I was actually just kind of amazed at how well it performed, like treating it more like a dirt bike than a cruiser. So, the Sportster, as much as us Dyna bros make it the butt of a joke many a time, it does have its purpose. And what is the Sportster's best purpose? Well, I think it's what you're seeing us do right now, which is you're hitting twisties, you're hitting mountain roads, you're not really doing riding where you're going to be exceeding, say, 55 miles per hour. That's where it could actually be a hell of a lot of fun. And they're also really great bikes to have in the city. Like I said, I used to use it primarily for urban commuting to save beating my Dynas and my FXRs up when I had to do the city miles all the time. So it brings me back to the topic of the video, you know. These bikes are great if you're doing backcountry roads. They're super reliable, especially this one from the 80s, right? They do very well in the city. So why do we make fun of these bikes so much? Why do we hate on the Sportsters so much? Why do they get so much hate from those of us like myself from the Dyna and FXR crowd? I'm legitimately asking why. Because I'll tell you what, man, if you put it in the right situation, it's a very capable bike, which I think everybody knows. You know, how many of you watching this was a Sportster your first bike, or maybe right now even your main bike, you know? Because what I will say is, yeah, they get made fun of a lot, but I do know some people with some very mean Sportster builds, such as my buddy Eric D from New England, who's got a Sportster build that literally beats twin cam Dynas off the line. You know, the thing is just an absolute beast. And Old Man Flinch, you know, he's always telling me about this hot rod Sportster build he had back in the day that Andrew Rosa from Long Island built up for him, where he used to pull the front wheel off without even trying, man. The thing was a ripper. So the mean Sportster builds are out there, man. So why do these bikes get made fun of so much? Why? So yeah, in terms of this Sportster, like I said, as you can see, it's got a bar riser set up. You know, you can see it's got a saddle and seat, it's got a crash bar. It has all those things because like 6 years ago I was doing a lot of rolling burnouts and a lot of stupid things with my Dyna Lowrider S, and I was breaking my Dyna a lot, and I could no longer cover the repair costs, so I actually was building this Sportster up to be a stunt bike. But then I decided to stay in my lane and leave the stunting to the professionals out there. That just, I'll do my heavy distance days, I'll ride fast, I'll ride hard, but in terms of the stunting, well, like I said, I leave that to the pros. So in terms of the future of this Sportster, right, I have tossed around the idea of maybe chopping it out, you know, turning it into, you know, turning it into a ridge, chopping it out, making it something cool like that. But then I gotta say, the road captain's been bringing up this idea for a long time of turning it into one of those Rusty Butcher off-road post-apocalyptic machines, you know, something that you could, you know, rip on the dirt roads, on the gravel, on the unpaved roads, on all that, and have it handle that. And I'll say, from taking it along some trails today and doing that type of riding, I think the road captain is onto something, man. It would be a lot of fun to have this bike actually be set up to do some off-roading. But Sportsters, man, maybe you love them, maybe you hate them, maybe you make fun of them, maybe you ride them. I don't think anyone could argue that they are reliable bikes, capable bikes, and I think will always go down in history as a cornerstone of the Harley-Davidson cruiser lineup. So as always, you all let me know in the comment section. What's your experience with the Sportster platform? Why do you think these bikes get so much hate? I don't know. As always, whether you're on a Sportster, a Dyna, an FXR, or a Lowrider ST, stay safe and stay low. Practice a positive mental attitude. Don't let your dad ride a Sportster if you could sacrifice your ST. And on that, FXDLS Brooklyn is out.